morning, Sarah here. Just got back from my trip up to Anglesey to have a bit of respite. Mum's been cared for locally, so I was able to get away. And I spent my time walking on the beaches. I mean, the beautiful wild beaches up there, and visiting sacred sites along the way. And I'm going to do a couple of short videos to just show you where some of the places I went to. And what really got me thinking while I was up in Anglesey was, how we are distracted constantly in our everyday lives. I mean, when we go away on holiday or just for a trip away from home, everything that is worrying us dissolves. And that is the reset, our vagus nerve reset, if you like, and our general mental reset. And it got me wondering as to why we can't do that when we're at home. There's so many distractions. And that's all by design. Either we're on our phones or on the internet, or we're filling our heads full of fear from the scaremongering that's going on at the moment. I mean, stuff in the UK is absolutely mental at the moment. And it is a big concern. You can't just bury your head in the sand and just think, oh, well, I'm not going to worry about that. We have to be aware of what's going on, obviously. But my thought is that we don't need to be caught up on it on a 24-hour basis, 7 days a week. And the way that we can do that is by spending more time on our own and quiet. And that's the time that we are able to reset ourselves, in our ordinary day living. And it's so easy to do when we're away on holiday because we're not connected to our phones quite so much, or the internet. We have a complete break, or work, or that kind of thing. And so there's a reluctance, I think, for people to actually spend time on their own. I've noticed that people always have music going. There's no silence anywhere. There's music in the shops, and there's music on the phones, and every Instagram thing you look at, it's got some trending music track on it. We never have this kind of silence in our lives. So I do think it's very important that we find that time, whether it's before you get out of bed in the morning, in the middle of the day when you're stopping for a coffee break or lunch break, or like I do outside drumming in the morning, to spend that precious time just allowing ourselves to not be connected to something. There is a downside to this, of course, that stuff comes up that we don't want to look at, and that's probably the main reason that people don't want to switch everything off, because things come up that they've been burying for a very long time. Or you're bored, you get bored. What am I doing sitting here? I'm not doing anything. It's a waste of time. I should be doing whatever. But in boredom, I find, is the breeding ground for creativity. If you sit still long enough and you think, I'm bored, oh my God, this is so boring. I'm just sitting here not doing anything. I'm thinking about stuff that I don't want to think about. Let me get my phone out and scroll through whatever. But if you allow yourself to be bored, your brain suddenly kicks into that creative space. It allows space for intuition to drop in, for creative ideas to drop in. And that never happens when you're busy. It doesn't come from intellect, from your brain, from your head, from thinking. It comes from being still. I mean, I'm sure you've heard people saying, oh God, I had this brilliant idea when I was in the shower, because they weren't thinking about anything. They were just washing their hair or washing their body, and their brain was kind of shut for a minute, and suddenly an idea came into their heads. And so I do feel that we are now programmed to not allow ourselves to be bored, or not allow ourselves to face some of those rather icky things that we've been not wanting to think about for a long time. We're being programmed to completely distract us from that. And I honestly feel that it's an agenda. It is something that the nefarious powers to be don't want us to be in our quiet place, in our truth, in our sovereignty, if you like, and that they bombard us with adverts, or if you're a YouTube scroller, they will pick up on what you want, what you're interested in, and then just keep feeding you that same thing. Or Facebook will feed you the adverts it thinks you're interested in, and it's all gathering this information, and they sell it to corporations, which then bombard you with more adverts and more marketing and more selling, so that we're constantly on this treadmill of not being able to think for ourselves, that we don't have an original thought ourselves. And that's quite scary, especially as AI is really coming into its own now, that it will know everything about us before very long, if it doesn't already. And that way we can be manipulated. That way they can move us into the 15-minute cities, or they can move us into thinking that our cars are killing the planet, or they can move us into believing that we shouldn't be eating real grass-fed meat, that we should be eating something that's manufactured in a factory because it's better for the planet, or it's better for the animals, or it's and you may well be vegan, and that might be your thoughts anyway, but we don't all have to be the same. we can all be different. That's who we are. That's what humans are. They're individuals that have different ideas, that have different thoughts, that have different eating habits, that have different living habits, and that's fine. We only have to stick to a very few basic principles, if you like. I will not murder, number one, I guess, and I will not steal. But pretty much everything else is down to the individual's way of life. I believe that, there are some people that aren't able to have a moral compass, or don't have a moral compass, but the vast majority of us do. And we don't really need to be told how to live our lives. And this is how I feel that, the society is going now, is that we're constantly being herded down one avenue because it doesn't suit the governing bodies, if you like, or the corporations, more to the point, as the world is run by corporations, not by governments. And that they want us to be herded down this way because that way they're making more money and they have more control over us, and ultimately it meets their end goal. So back to my thought about how we can bring back that holiday calm reset back into our daily lives, is through just dedicating a little bit of time every day, whether it be first thing in the morning when you open your eyes before you get out of bed, to just spend a little bit of time just lying there, not doing anything, not checking your phone, not thinking about what you're going to be doing later in the day, but just to be open to what comes in. Or if you're like me, to do a little bit of drumming, which is my meditation basically, or to just find 10, 15, 20 minutes where you're just sitting, where there's nothing going on around you, there's nobody around you. You're not talking to friends who are also a distraction, and fear-mongering or whatever, but to just be on your own and to allow boredom to kick in, to allow those perhaps unwanted thoughts to come up and to be looked at. You don't have to engage with them. You can just say, hi, yep, I hear you, I see you, but I'm just going to let you go for the moment. And they will keep coming back, and you just keep saying, hi, yeah, I'm here, because you've raised your head, but actually I don't want to engage with you just right now, but I'm just going to sit here and see what happens. And often those, troubling thoughts will come, they'll move through your head, and they'll just go if you don't latch onto them and start building a story to them. And so that's my kind of post-break eureka moment, is that we need to bring that holiday feeling into our everyday lives if we can, and not be distracted by the bombardment of social media and all that stuff. And actually probably worse, the fear-mongering that's going on at the moment around personal sovereignty. Yes, we need to know what's going on, but we don't need to engage with it until it's right in our face. Yes, if you feel you need to go to the bank and you don't want to divulge too much information to them, then choose that as your line for that day. But don't worry too much, I feel, about what's happening too far down the line. Take every day as it comes. I think we've won the war anyway. We're just watching it play out. It's just a popcorn moment, and it can be pretty scary. But yeah, sit in your center, bring yourself back to that still point, and allow yourself to connect with your intuition and your creativity, and you'll be surprised what comes up.